Hi, my name is Dominic. Today I'm going to be talking about cellular respiration. So what is cellular respiration? Well, cellular respiration is the process by which the food you eat gets broken down into usable energy for your cells. Cells need energy in the form of ATP in order to function properly, and cells can get ATP by breaking down glucose that you consume in a three-step process. So the first step is glycolysis. Glycolysis occurs in the cytoplasm when glucose enters the cell. It undergoes this long chemical reaction, but what you need to know is that glucose is broken down into 2-pyruvate. It produces two of these NADH electron carriers, which are going to be important in a later step, and it produces a little bit of this ATP. What's important to know is that glycolysis doesn't require oxygen, and this is the only step that produces ATP without oxygen. So the next step is chemical grooming. This step is an intermediate step between glycolysis and the citric acid cycle in order to prepare pyruvate for the citric acid cycle by converting it into this acetyl-CoA. Chemical grooming also produces a little bit of this electron carrier, NADH, and it produces a little bit more CO2. And this process occurs as the pyruvate enters the mitochondria. So in step 2, the citric acid cycle, even more of these electron carriers are produced as the acetyl-CoA is broken down into CO2. So what happens is, as acetyl-CoA is broken down, it releases energy that can be used to create more of these electron carriers, as well as a little bit more ATP energy for the cell. So in the final step, oxidative phosphorylation, all of the NADH and FADH2 that we've been producing in the previous steps are then broken back down into their former forms, and it produces this hydrogen ion gradient in the intermembrane space of the mitochondria. What's important to know is that oxygen is very important for this step of the process. It's known as the last electron acceptor, and this process of breaking down the electron carriers wouldn't be able to happen if it wasn't for the oxygen that you breathe. What happens now is that the hydrogen ion gradient produced from the electron carriers, it passes back through the inner mitochondrial membrane into the mitochondrial matrix. And what's going to happen is it's going to spin this ATP synthase turbine. And in doing so, it's going to produce a lot of ATP. So around 34 ATP, way more ATP than the citric acid cycle and glycolysis process that we've been doing before. So as a final result of cellular respiration, it's going to take one glucose molecule and oxygen that you breathe, and it's going to produce CO2, water, H2O, and it's going to produce 2 ATP from glycolysis, 2 ATP from the citric acid cycle, and 34 ATP from oxidative phosphorylation. It's going to produce a grand total of 38 ATP. And what your cells can do with that ATP is they can move your muscles. So as you can see in Usain Bolt here, he's able to run as fast as he can with ATP, as well as pump your heart, which is also a muscle. And ATP can also be used to maintain cell homeostasis via active transport across the membrane. And it can even control chemical reactions across your cells. So there you go. Hope you learned a thing or two about cellular respiration. Thanks for watching.